Welcome to another edition of Finance Friday, episode 5. It is now April 29th. And yeah, we've had a lot of crazy things happen. We have new Capenna coming out real soon. Some people already got their hands on it. So that's moving a lot of stuff. But first of all, let's just go over, is this some of the standard stuff on the list? Something that, most people are aware of. We're going to look at the weekly change since it's been a week. And I mainly want to focus on these big percents. Haunted Ridge. Why is this going up so much? I don't know. People are finally figuring out that these lands are really, really good, like insanely good. I don't know about insanely good, but these are some of the most solid dual lands out there, and they've been really cost efficient for a long time. So I'm not surprised that some of them are going way up as these colors get popular in standard builds. But yeah, 22% increase on the Haunted Ridge. Old Gnawbone still climbing. A 9% increase. Stormcarved Coast, another one of these lands. All these lands are spicy. Hold on to them if you got them, in my opinion. I think they're going to see a lot of play. Warrenclex, Esika's Chariot, still relatively cheap. Broke the $5 mark finally, but it sees a lot of play. I don't know if you can read these from here, but these are all very commonly played in standard, so I'm not going to worry about blowing them up too much. Zorn finally seeing some price hikes. Took him a while, but it's kind of inevitable that this guy goes up. He just combos so well with treasures, and they're still printing stuff with treasures, so he only gets better as time goes on, I think. So cool card. 24% up 24% this week. That's pretty big. It's still a relatively cheap card, but when the set first came out, this was a 50-cent card for a long time. Oh, Deadly Dispute. This is a common. All right, let's look at this. This is crazy. This is kind of nuts. A common from Forgotten Realms worth $5. It's still in print in standard right now. A $5 common. What? That kind of makes these packs of Forgotten Realms really, really worthwhile. Because wait, you pay $3-4 for a pack, you're most likely going to get a Deadly Dispute, which is a $5 card if you're just looking to flip. And then you get the rares and all that. I don't know. It's just kind of nutty to see a common at that price. It's a good card. Beseju, not really moving much. It's a 2%. Brutal Cathar. Now this card's been on the list for a while. Very annoying to play against, but of course you can just remove it and they kind of get 2 for 1 almost. But if it continues to, if you protect this thing, it's kind of a problem. And the other land. All right. Well, yeah, not too big. I guess some of these are actually pretty big changes. All right, let's just flip through the modern and see what we got over here. The weekly changes. We're seeing a big increase on Leyline of Sanctity, up 94%. Multiple different editions. Seems to be very, very hot this week. The Leyline of Sanctity. I guess it's because for these combo decks, you want to protect your hand. You don't want people duressing away your counterspells, all that. I guess that's what people are doing with those. Liliana of the Veil climbing back up. She was down for a while. Steam Vents climbing, certain editions anyway. Chalice of the Void, and a lot of modern stuff. Stomping Grounds, you kind of expect to see a lot of this stuff on here eventually. Very popular modern cards, but the new one on the list is Academy Manufacturer. Now this guy's really cool. He's just a 1/3 for 3 assembly worker artifact creature, but he has a static ability that reads, you would create a clue, a food, or a treasure, create one of each, which is crazy good if you want a bunch of stuff to sack or just a lot of permanents on board, and especially a lot of artifacts, because that's 3 artifacts, which can make your constructs really huge and stuff. Yeah, this card is just proven to be really good. A little bit good. I don't know what I'm saying there, but it's really strong. It's a cool card. Thord of Amethyst, what is this? Okay, it's one of these cards. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to play. It's basically Thalia on a stone. Interesting. Another Liliana, Cloudstone Curio going up a little bit. Of course, there's more, but those are all the biggest ones. I think Academy Manufacturer is like the card of the week. For a lot of people, it's just been suddenly everybody's been wanting to copy, basically. All right, let's check out Pioneer. Cavalier of Thorns. A huge 357% increase. That's massive. This card is really good. I remember playing it in standard and playing against it in standard. It's really, really hard to beat people that play Cavalier of Thorns. They just drop this card, you remove it, they get stuff back still, and it's just really hard to deal with. And it's got reach, so it can block your flyers. Resplendent Angel. Yeah, this is a cool card. I don't know what to say about it really. And it's a 3/3 angel for 3. There were some new angels printed in Streets of Capenna, particularly a 2-drop one that, some of these really cheap, nice flying angels go really well together. Maybe it has something to do with it. Corvold, still climbing. He's nearly reaching $20. Wow. Emrakul, the Promised End. He's going up a little bit. Revel and Riches. More treasure stuff. I think all this treasure stuff is going to kind of go up endlessly because treasure's just broken in so many ways, and there's just certain cards that are OP with it. month. Golos finally reaches the $10 mark. Tomb of Yawgmoth going up. Teferi, Hero Dominaria. The Ozil is still coming up a little bit. Collective Defiance up huge again this week. This was on last week's list. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of the same stuff. Alright, let's take a look at some comments. Lotus Petal, Ancient Den, really? These are a lot of these are from the list. These are like the list copies specifically. I don't know what's going on there, or if people just decided they want the little magic symbol at the bottom left or whatever. I don't know. Well-wisher even on here too. But it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting that it's all the list cards this week. It seems like there's always some weird flavor for a lot of these. Just they're all going up. It's hard to really predict why or what's going on there. Alright, but this we're looking at Legacy here. I think the biggest one is Jungle Patrol. This thing went up to $32. It's a 1,200, almost 1,300% increase. Kind of huge. So if you have any of these sitting around in a binder or a box or whatever. Alright, but what is this guy? It's a 4 mana 3/2 soldier. You can pay 2, tap it, and put a 0/1 wall into play. You can 0/1 wood token wall. You can sack a wood token to add red to your mana pool. I don't know what's going on here. Objectively, this card is kind of terrible. It's not particularly good. It takes a long time to build up little wood tokens. You can't do much with the wood tokens. It's kind of expensive for a 3/2. There's not anything particularly good about this card. It's just a reserve list, I guess, and it's from Mirage. Alright, well, what else we got on here? I don't know if there's anything else. A lot of unlimited cards. We got Lich, we got Candelabra. Yeah, I don't know if I want to talk about any of these too much. Monolith naturally always coming up. We got some unlimited dual lands, Gaze Cradle. Alright, well, let's move on from Legacy. Let's look at Vintage. Now, Vintage, I don't know what MTG Goldfish is doing with Vintage, but I've just noticed that what they call Vintage is actually just anti-cards. These are all always anti-cards. I don't know when anti-cards were specifically Vintage, but they're all banned. You can't play them. You can't even play them in Vintage. I don't know why you would call them Vintage. They're just basically old collectibles that are unplayable cards, and I don't understand what's going on with this list. It doesn't make any sense to me. I guess there's some cards like maybe this thing. What is this? This isn't even playable. What the heck is this? What is this Vintage list? And I don't think I've had anyone comment and say anything about this either. I don't know what the heck's going on with Vintage. Well, it's not about Vintage. It's more just MTG Goldfish and what they call Vintage, and the cards they watch are just a bunch of banned cards you can't even play even in Vintage. Anyway, let's move on. That's it for these weekly movers and shakers. Now I want to talk about some other cards that aren't exactly on these lists but are still making some pretty interesting movements. Force of Will is a big one this week. It's moved up about $7. This card has just continued to climb. It's getting up to 130 for this Alliance's copy. It's just, you can see it right here at the end. There's been a nice steady uptick recently, and it might be that people are getting back into tournament season. This is just such a popular card for everything it's legal in. And what is it legal in? It's not legal in Modern. You got to go Legacy, Vintage, Commander, of course. So basically Legacy and Vintage as far as tournaments go, and of course Commander. But yeah, it's definitely huge. You basically have to have 4 of these in your deck in Legacy or Vintage, or your deck's not even valid. Sure, you can enter it into the tournament, but you have a 0% chance of winning unless you have 4 Force of Will. That's just my riffing on the thing, but that's basically how it goes. You simply don't win Legacy or Vintage with no Force of Wills. It's probably not even possible. It's just that strong. The Secret Lair copy of Captain Sisay has been moving recently. Not legal in Modern. Interesting. I thought it was. Anyway, yeah, it's moved up about $6 this week, which is a decent increase. I think this really only sees play in Commander these days. I don't think people are playing it in Historic or Legacy or Vintage. They might a little bit, but it's mainly just a Commander thing. You know, searching up legendaries is super nice because you got a ton of them in a Commander deck. But yeah, recently this thing has just been going a little crazy. So well, let's see. We got some other copies. I mean, you can get, I guess the cheapest is $25, so it's kind of an expensive card at this point. It's not all that good necessarily. I mean, it's 4 mana for a 2/2, and you got to wait a whole round or have haste to even get the effect, and most likely someone's going to kill it. So it's not a particularly strong card, it's just a cool card. We couldn't possibly go an episode without mentioning some dual lands, could we? This is a revised Scrubland. It seems like every week there's a different dual land on the climb list and another one on the downtick list. So they're always just steadily ticking up, just like this type of movement, like, you know, a little up, a little down, but in the long run they're going up. It's just the way it is with these dual lands. And this week, the biggest ones were Tropical Island and Scrubland. And I think we had some pullback on Underground Sea. So they just seem to kind of flip-flop. Like some go up one week while the others go down, then it goes the other direction. And they're just like stair-step climbing upwards. But they've been pretty steadily going up since I started this series. And no surprise, of course, I see a ton of Commander play. You have to have them in Legacy or Vintage, or else don't even bother. Just no point in submitting your deck unless it's got the proper dual lands and Force of Wills. You know, which sort of a side rant. That's the whole problem with these old formats is you just have to pay so much money to even be able to play. It's like, do I even know if my deck's good? No. I spent all my time raising money to even put it together. I didn't get to play test it. Just kidding. You know, you can proxy when you're play testing, but once it comes down to the real thing, so you got to have the real card to enter. And that's, I don't know if they're ever going to do anything about that or if they should, but it's an interesting fact. This copy of Blasphemous Act from Secret Lair has been climbing pretty steadily. It went up about $4 this week, which is pretty significant for where it's at. And, you know, it's just a huge Commander card. I think it sees a little bit of modern play. I don't know about a whole lot, but pretty much everyone that plays any form of red has this in their deck. And this thing has also been reprinted into the ground. As you can see, there's just so many copies reprinted, and basically anytime a new Commander set comes out, if the deck has red, they throw Blasphemous Act in there, yet another copy. So everyone and their brother and their mother and, you know, everyone they're related to and everybody in the world's got way too many Blasphemous Acts. So it always surprises me when this card goes up. But this particular copy is kind of special because, well, there's only one way to get it, and it's got way different art. Like the new Streets of New Capenna one, they're still, I guess it's good. It's going up everywhere. Even the newest, cheapest one is just over $2. So still a hot card. Yeah, it changes games when you play it, but this one is, the only thing holding its value down is just the sheer number of copies that are out there. But even with all that, it's still climbing, which tells you how good it is. And, you know, it's no surprise, right? Because it's like 90% of the time when you play this, it's like 1 red mana to do 13 to all creatures, which is nuts. One red mana for a board wipe is obviously really good. Still on the list this week, Dika, Fractal Theorist, climbing about another $4 or so this week, up to 8. Super cool card. I don't know how actually how good it is. It's a 5 mana 3/3 is the problem. But once you get it on the board, it does kind of produce a lot of fractals in the right deck, and it could be a lot, because it's Magecraft. Magecraft triggers not only on instant sorcery spell casts, but also on copying. So if you have some copy shenanigans going on, Dika and anything with Magecraft in general is just going to go off. Unquestioned Authority. This was on the list last week and it's still going up about another, well, this is the foil copy from Conspiracy. This one in particular spiked a lot recently, as you can see. I think it was with the Neon Dynasty, some of the new enchantment and stuff going on there. I think kind of pushed it, but you can still get this for pretty cheap. Looks like you can get it for 43 cents if you want to get the Judgment copy, but that's basically nothing. But this foil Conspiracy copy seems to be really expensive for some reason at 24 bucks. I guess the Judgment foil is also pretty expensive at 43. So just these in foil in general are worth a ton, but the normal ones not so much. Emergent Ultimatum. This card has been seeing some steady increases. It's just been going up pretty much every week. It suddenly went from $1 to $5, and if you go for, let's see, the extended foil copy, you get to about 10. The extended copy in general is about, well, 10, 12. So the extended copy you get up to about $12, but the regular one's at 5. Yeah, this card is really good. I just remember playing against it in Standard. Once somebody casts this, it's basically game over because they get 3 monocolored creatures with different names. Opponent chooses one of them, goes back into your library. The other 2 are cast without paying the mana cost. Now, this is huge because I think what people are doing with this card is they're getting these massive cast triggers off of, I can't even think of what they're called, like the not Phyrexians, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Just like all the Eldrazi. That's what I'm trying to say. You can get, well, they're not monocolored though. I don't know what people are getting with this exactly, but you get to cast them is the point. So you get ETBs, you get cast triggers, and most importantly, you just get 2 really big creatures most likely. So this thing is very very strong. All right, I'm going to try to mention a few more, but I want to try to focus on things that actually have a big percent increase, because there's a lot of stuff going up a couple bucks, but they're already worth 30 or so, and they're going up $2, stuff like that. I'm trying to look for things that are more important, big movers. Pretty much all the stuff I mentioned last week seems to be back on the list, still going up a couple bucks here and there. A lot of hot cards. Magic's been very hot recently. Seems like it's been that way for a while. All right, here's one that I wasn't trying to hype it up, but I kind of unintentionally hyped it up one episode. It had this awkward, huge spike right here. Well, I still don't know what's going on with this card exactly. It's a very playable, very strong card, Wedding Announcement. If you've played any standard, you've seen it. It's played like crazy in any deck that runs white, basically. It's just such good value, because you end up getting 3 creatures and then everything buffed. Or for each creature you miss out on, you get to draw a card. Which is kind of better. But this foil extended version's down to $6, so it's actually probably worth picking up if you want the fancy one. But a couple weeks ago this was at like 20, so this is on the loser list. That's right, we've reached the loser list. I need like a little theme for the loser list, a little theme song to play. Anyway, yeah, so this card tanked. If you bought him at 20, you lost out big time. Because it went down $12 in this last week, over $12, which is pretty huge. I don't know what else to say about it. Just be careful with these spikes. Yeah, that's the big lesson here, and I found this to be true in a lot of different areas. So total side rant here. And also, I forgot to mention that my intro sucked. My intro was terrible, but I basically forgot to mention that I'm not responsible for your investments and decisions. We're just having some fun here. 20 minutes in, I guess I'll say it now. I'll see where this is once we're cutting. It's probably not going to be 20 minutes, but you get the point. All right. I guess the other point I'm trying to make here is you don't necessarily commit to things when they spike. It's easy to say, okay, this went way up, I should get it now before it goes up anymore. But what usually happens when things spike quickly is they pull back down just as quick, but not to the same extent. For example, Wedding Announcement, this was like $1 or $2, right? Before this huge spike, this was like, well, $3. It was a $3 card. Had a huge spike to 20, goes way back down. It looks like it tanked, but actually it went from like $3 to $6. So it's actually still up from that original thing. You just didn't, you didn't want to buy it during that original spike because you would have lost a lot of money. But in the long run, it still ended up going up, and we'll see what happens with that in the long run. Alright, this card, False Orders from Unlimited, is tanking as expected. It's not a very good card. It's not that impactful. It's more goofy than anything. It's probably not going to win you any games. But yeah, for some reason, people decided that they're going to buy it out or something. I still don't understand what happened with this card. It's a common. Shouldn't be at this price range. But naturally, it just tanked down to 25, which is no surprise. It actually... I guess they're talking about the highest grade mint ones that are, in cases and sent off and marked with a check of approval, perfect condition. Those are probably the ones worth this big mark, because throughout this whole spike of this thing going to $50, going to $80, you could still buy the card for like $1 or $2, which kind of defeats the purpose. False Orders went to 80, except you can still buy it for $1. Huh? How'd it go to 80 if you can still buy it for $1? I don't get it. I don't know. It's been like that the whole time. You could buy it off Card Kingdom, eBay, or whatever for still really cheap. This kind of stuff just annoys me, because it's like you look at it thinking something big is happening, but in actuality it's not. It's just like people goofing with the numbers, I guess. If you want the card, it's still dirt cheap. Guess who's finally pulling back a little bit? Arbu, Roar of the World. Yeah, this guy's been on the uptick for like 4 weeks straight, so it's about time. He went down about 10 this week, which sounds huge, but it's not, because the week before that it went up 20, so it's still up 10 over the last 2 weeks. It just spiked up 20 and went down 10. They tend to do that. That's kind of normal. It's just standard. If something's going up too quick, expect it to come back down. Maybe not back down to its original number, but things can't move that quick, because generally I think what happens, speculating here, it seems to be true though, the card spikes. It goes from like $5 to $20, and all these people who are sitting on like a bunch of copies of it are like, okay, now's the time. It just spiked an unreasonable amount. I'm gonna unload what I got, cash out, and then when it comes back down, maybe they'll get a copy or two back. But if they're getting that granular with it, but ultimately they just, you make a lot of money off stuff when it spikes suddenly. But yeah, people basically unload them onto the market as soon as there's a huge spike, so that pulls it back down. And the cycle continues. All right, I think that's going to do it for this week. There's a lot of other stuff moving still, a lot of other stuff, but I can't really tell if it's anything significant. There's not any other huge price increases percent wise. I think we've covered the main ones. So thanks for tuning in. See you guys next episode, and feel free to leave a comment, leave a like, and yeah, as long as people keep watching, I will keep doing these every week, and I'll try to splash in some other content here and there. Been wanting to do a new Capenna review and all that stuff, but it's quite a commitment to review the full set. It literally takes half a day. It's kind of crazy, so I just haven't committed to doing that, but maybe I'll play some arena or something. Let me know what you guys want to see. Peace out.